Vanilla BeamNG offers 13 different maps, and today I'm going to be giving out my opinion once again, even though only one person asked. Now, just so we're clear, I'm not an expert in shit and will probably get some facts wrong, so feel free to correct anything in the comments. Also, as an important note, BeamNG did just drop update 0.35 whilst I was making this video, making it the third time that BeamNG has dropped an update while I'm making a video. But the overall tier list and footage will not change, as this new update doesn't really bring any new changes to the maps. The only real changes are that Hiroshi Raceway now has a drag strip, and there's a couple new tracks or roads in the track area of West Coast USA. Other than that, the rankings will mostly remain the same. Now, with that out of the way, it's time to start ranking. So first we got Automation Test Track, and honestly I didn't really give it a try before, and that's because for whatever reason the map absolutely tanks my FPS in a manner that no other map does. I think that might be due to the mountains that surround this map. This is probably one of the most unique maps in BeamNG due to the fact that it's cold. So cold in fact that you can more easily see the smoke coming out of your exhaust. It also features what is, to my knowledge, the only instance of snow driving on an actual map, as well as a large dam with these damn tunnels that you can speed through, which I found pretty damn cool. There's also 2 racetracks, an airport, a couple rallying tracks, and a bit of other stuff sprinkled in there. As the name suggests, it is a testing ground for your automation ports in BeamNG, so it's going to have a pretty solid variety. So aside from tanking my FPS harder than literally any map in this game, it's pretty good, so I'll give it a B tier. Now we got Cliff, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, this map is cheeks, and I'm not talking about face cheeks or sandy cheeks, although according to the default license plate this map is based in Texas, so let's make it a little more accurate. This map is basically the BeamNG equivalent of Minecraft World Generation post 1.18. Matter of fact, there's an island in our Minecraft server that's basically this map. Now I understand this map is old and was apparently used for testing BeamNG's soft body physics, but it doesn't make it any better, nor does it help it age any better. The main things that you can do on this map are drive around the beach, try to climb up the cliff, and throw your vehicle off the cliff. That's about it. There's a whopping total of 2 spawn points in one scenario, which I ranked F tier in my BeamNG scenarios video. And like the only scenario that this map has, it also gets an F tier. Next up is yet another relatively forgotten map, Derby Arenas. On the BeamNG subreddit, you'll mostly find people talking about how it's forgotten or how they never play it. And hey look, this map is also based in Texas. You know what we gotta do now. So this map was more than likely made for the purpose of multiplayer, except there's just one glaring issue. BeamNG doesn't have an official online multiplayer, and it only supports local area networks, although technically you can play this online with BeamNG, a third-party mod. Now I've never played on this map with other people, so I decided to do exactly that. And it was alright, I guess. Not really much was going on. This is generally speaking one of the smaller BeamNG maps with an area size of 0.4 square miles or 0.64 square kilometers, which is, for reference, about a quarter of the size of your mother. Anyway, I was skimming through the area and I went to check the map to see if I didn't miss anything. Then I saw this. What the fuck is that? This is only used in a single scenario, which requires 4 people to play it, by the way. Anyway, for not really having that much to offer aside derby things, this gets a D tier. So now we've got what is the second really good map in my opinion, East Coast USA. This map, as the name implies, is based off the east coast of the United States, more specifically in the region of New England, and even more specifically in the state of Maine. This map features a small town called Furwood, or I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, and another small spot where there's a car dealership and a gas station, and there's some narrow but surprisingly straight roads, as well as a couple of dirt roads and some river roads. However, I'm fairly certain this map is haunted. See, there's a small dirt path that's easy to miss, and on it is this house that's clearly abandoned with a half open door and a flashing light at one of its windows. If that wasn't spooky enough, there's some random monolith just down the river. If that hasn't shivered your timbers just yet, in earlier versions of East Coast USA, there's music that plays at this point of the map, and it's pretty spooky. Whatever is going on over here, I don't want to find out. The main feature of this map, of course, is the nature, I'd say. Of course, that doesn't really make it an incredibly unique map by any metric, so yeah, it gets A tier. Alright everyone, we've got a real banger here. ETK Driver Experience Center. Okay, I'm kidding, this map's kinda mid. This map gets a big circle track and a stretch of road and a couple of sections of wet road to test driver performance during the rain, and it's just what you'd expect from a driving school. There's also a reference here to the Nürburgring Castle. Overall, this map makes me wish that BeamNG did a full map for Germany, considering how much the country has contributed to the automotive world. Same with Japan. D tier. Now, we have a map that I'm sure some of you weren't expecting. Hell, some of you might not even know that this map exists. I'm talking about Glow City, the map used in BeamNG's Light Runner mode and the default map for Track Builder. It's the only map in the game that looks decent at nighttime. The aesthetics are really unique compared to other BeamNG maps, being something you expect to see in a movie like Tron, with a very neon 80s futuristic look to it. It's also the only map in BeamNG, to my knowledge, that plays music, and the music sounds more muffled when you're in the first person camera. Unfortunately, I cannot play it because it's copyrighted, so unfortunately you guys will not get a break from my nasally SpongeBob ass voice. Now let's get to the track, the main reason this map exists. And let me say, these Light Runner tracks are pretty fun to go through in my opinion, despite the fact that I kinda suck at doing them. It's just really interesting to see the physics of BeamNG, which are attempting to mimic real life, and seeing it used for tracks you'd only expect to see in a game like Asphalt or Mario Kart, which is interesting. But of course, the tracks aren't a part of the map itself, and without it, Glow City is essentially grid, but with massive monoliths sticking out of it. Also, as far as I'm aware, you can't really access this map in free mode without like mods or anything, so that makes it go down a bit. Tracks included, it's a D tier, maybe even a C tier. Without the tracks, however, it's an E tier. This map has some serious potential though, and I would really love to see it get implemented in actual BeamNG. Also, while we're on the topic of futuristic cities, I wanted to briefly mention that Toyota did make an official anime. It's called Grip, and it's set in this cyberpunk world. All the episodes, however, are like a minute long, and the writing is rather flat, but then again, what would you expect? I don't know, I just thought it was funny that we got an official anime from a car company. Grid is pretty simple, an infinite flat plane where you can test the true top speed of your cars. It's also a pretty solid place to get B-roll footage due to its low intensity on your graphics. However, outside of that, there isn't much going on here, so I'll probably put it in E tier. That's probably a really controversial placement, I'm not gonna lie. Grid Map V2 is essentially a playground for your BeamNG vehicles with arcadey tracks, loops, half pipes, mountains, river, terrain testing, etc. Although it's all kind of done in a very incoherent mess, so it gets C tier. Hiroshi Raceway is, as the name implies, a raceway. Located somewhere in Maine, it features a racetrack, whatever this is, a rock crawling course, and a couple of roads outside the racing area. Honestly, this map feels like it should be an extension of East Coast USA rather than a standalone map. Both maps take place in Maine, and honestly look similar enough that there could be some connections between both maps. East Coast USA is an already solid map in my opinion, and this would have made it a lot better. C tier. Industrial Site is another map located in Texas, and you know what that means. Although it's actually fairly solid. Due to its location in Texas, the map is much more dry and arid, but in earlier versions of the game, it was more tropical. This map is a bit fun to try and drift around, and it's got a decent bit to explore. This plays really heavily into Texas and its oil industry and just general industrial might, with there being a port, warehouses, and some other shit packed into the relatively small map. B tier. Italy is BeamNG's biggest map at 6.4 square miles or 16.6 square kilometers. That's bigger than the entire country of Monaco, which granted isn't very big to begin with, but it would be cool to see BeamNG doing an official one-to-one recreation of Monaco. People who've played on nothing but maps based in the US will probably be somewhat shocked with how small and mountainous the roads are here. They can be pretty fun to drive though, and they also provide nice views. Additionally, Italy contains BeamNG's biggest airport as well as a port. There's also various towns and villages and cities scattered across the entire map. First you've got Norte, which is the biggest city with a port and an airport. You've also got whatever this is, which is a city on top of a mountain, or Castelletto, which has a castle and a statue of an owl, referencing the company Civetta. Specifically, its founder Antonio Civetta. The plaque reads "Le auto slito come sul ghiaccio," which translates to "the car skids like on ice," which is probably a reference to the infamous bolide. Anyway, I think it's fair that I give Italy an S tier. Johnson Valley is a desert map that's apparently a recreation of the real place in California. The map was added in update 0.27, so this makes it the newest map, and it was also added in BeamNG's largest update, adding 4 new vehicles plus a really goofy version of the Piccolina. And being that the update was dedicated to off-roading, this map is also largely dedicated to off-roading, complete with dunes, mountains, and a lot of rocks. There's also a highway that's about as long as my Johnson. Only bold statements here on this channel. Along the highway is a gas station, a small settlement, and a camping area for those going off-roading for events, where BeamNG displays RVs and traveler trailers that don't exist in the game just yet. Now, I know some people enjoy BeamNG and off-roading, but I've said this before, it's not exactly my thing. I personally do not have the patience to be off-roading in a simulator. You know, part of the experience of off-roading is feeling like at any moment you could just bounce out of your vehicle and fall thousands of feet to your death. And that feeling just isn't simulated in BeamNG without proper equipment. Anyway, this map gets a C tier because there's not really much to do in this map outside of off-roading. Jungle Rock Island is perhaps BeamNG's greenest map. Based off some island in Hawaii, the map's vibes are essentially, if industrial site, stayed tropical. It's got an abandoned observatory, an abandoned resort, and a port that also looks abandoned, as well as this site. However, this map is pretty fascinating being so green and luscious, although there isn't much to do outside of the beautiful nature and off-roading places. Maybe we can get a South America map where it isn't as abandoned. Just a thought. B tier. Have you ever been to Jungle Rock Island and just thought, you know, this place should be more dry? Welcome to Small Island, Texas. Hold on, let me just get it over with real quick. Yeah, I can't really comment on much here either. It's just some off-roading, a couple buildings here and there. Seems like this place mostly exists as a research center. C tier. For our second to last map, we've got Utah. And back in the day, this map was the shit, featuring an actual proper highway along with a lot of areas to crawl and off-road, and of course, you can't not mention the amount of sand roads you can rally to on this map. My biggest gripe with this map is how the shrubs seem to just easily total your car in some way, shape, or form, and if you go like, I don't know, a couple feet off the road, there will just be some hidden rock that will absolutely destroy your car. However, this map still has some shine to it, and I think I'll give it an A tier. Okay, let's be honest. If you've played BeamNG, you probably already know that West Coast USA was going to end up on S tier. And you'd be right. West Coast USA is perhaps the most comprehensive map BeamNG has to offer. It's the only BeamNG map with a proper city, Velasco City, which is largely influenced by San Francisco and features an industrial neighborhood, a bustling downtown, a typical San Francisco residential neighborhood, some docks, a Chinatown, and of course the Turbo Burger. There also seems to be a version of the LA River featured here. Yes, that's a river, which also connects to a sewer system, which is also connected to the steel refinery. Additionally, there's a racing area which features a racetrack, a demolition derby, and a rallying course. But wait, there's more. Outside of Velasco City, there is a movie studio as well as a small suburban community called Horizon Estates. That's right, the city has suburbs. This map also features train tracks, a direct nod to the players of BeamNG. Then you've got the industrial island known as Spearleaf Island, which was added as an extension to the map some time ago and finally gave the massive suspension bridge a purpose. Prior to its existence, you just loop around. Spearleaf Island contains mostly ports and warehouses as well as a lighthouse. And of course, I can't mention West Coast USA without mentioning its highway system, which is the most vast and expansive highway system that vanilla BeamNG offers, if I'm not mistaken. And while West Coast USA is not the most recent map, that would be Johnson Valley, it is the most frequently updated map, with it being the stage for career mode in BeamNG. And all the things on these maps are in an area size that is smaller than Italy, according to BeamNG. But I've more than likely forgotten to mention other areas, so I feel that this map warrants its S tier ranking. Well, that's the end of the list. What's your favorite map? And what would you like to see next out of BeamNG's maps? Personally, I just love to see other countries get represented in the game, as a majority of the maps are based in the USA. Or hell, just places outside of California and Texas, goddammit. But that's another video for another day. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see from BeamNG's maps, and I might make a video out of it. Anyway, that's the end, I think.